All right. Welcome, everyone. As we start to let people in from the lobby, we will get going here in just a moment. My name is Gina Saucier. I'm the Division Director for the Court Services Division for King County Superior Court Clerk's Office. Joining me is Amy Nedadog, who is one of our functional analysts, business analysts, as our driver of the day. We also have Kimberly, who will be monitoring the chat. So attendees can use the chat for Q&A or to ask questions of our team or moderators as we're going through the webinar for any responses or questions that you might have as we go. For the most part, we will be able to talk through the platform that has gone live as of this Monday, and then just sort of roadmap a demo for everybody so that you can see what it looks like, have an opportunity to engage with the interface, and follow along with a practice submission. So without further ado, we have upgraded one of our systems with a new avenue for people to be able to submit self-service clerk's papers in case types 2, 3, and 4. We sent out a clerk's alert last week to let everybody know. That is where most folks here were able to register for this. But a big improvement that we are able to do is have parties, attorneys, pro se, for case types 2, 3, and 4 submit their own designations and go through and have the ability to pay online, which is a very exciting change and something that we are looking forward to being a benefit for a large amount of users in this group. What I will go through now is have Amy share screen and just introduce you to the platform, introduce you to where sort of a very familiar stop for us is going to be on our clerk's portal. If you look at the homepage, you might notice a slight change to where the e-filing button now says Clerk's Papers as an option for us to begin our journey. The case types 2s, 3s, and 4, again, are what this program will be limited to, but the designations that go through this process can include both documents and designations for exhibits. So if I could have Amy go ahead and scroll down to the bottom of e-filing. The clerk's papers self-service is where you will be able to start the building of the designation that will get filed into your Superior Court case, as well as the document itself is created through this process, as well as identifying what you would like to select. So if I could have, perfect. I'm just going to enter in a Superior Court case number. The case number will only return after the search if the appeal has already been in existence in our case. So that notice of appeal, that appellate number that is linked to that case, is going to be what allows her to find a matching appeal number by typing in the King County Superior Court case. You'll be able to verify your information, just confirm that that's the correct case you're looking at. Some cases can have multiple appeals as well, so it's important if you have anything that has a multi-appeal case, you just want to make sure that your case is the appropriate one, and then go ahead and click the Submit Clerk's Papers button. This might look familiar for folks that are super involved in e-filing of documents. Primarily, it's going to be more familiar for folks that are attorneys or paralegals or office folks that have a lot of experience doing this. It'll feel very familiar to what that user interface looks like. So from this stage, you will use the magnifying glass. Go ahead and click on it, and then it will bring up the appeals associated with that case. On the far right is where you will see the actual appellate court case number that's associated with it. And in the second to right column will tell you if it's a Supreme Court case versus a Court of Appeals case. Once you've confirmed which case you would like to file a designation of clerk's papers into, it is a hyperlink that you can click on. And that will then populate that appeal information with the notice of appeal or the notice of discretionary review, and which court is going to get a transmittal of that designation of clerk's papers. From that page, you can go to the next step, which is to designate your documents. There are a couple of ways that you can select your documents that are going to be part of that transmission up to the Court of Appeals. You can use individual checkboxes to select documents that you would like to determine. You can also, as you can see on your screen, type in a search, and that'll go by the document name. So if you type in decree, if you type in motion, if you type in order, some of those high-level document names, you can use that. You also have the opportunity to select everything, but primarily just going through and just checking which cases, or I'm sorry, which documents you would like to have assembled as part of your request. From there, you are able to, and I'm sorry, one other thing, you are able to select a combination of regular documents, sealed documents, or restricted documents. It will section them out into their own separate indexes and clerk's paper sets down the road, but you don't need to repeat the process for all different types of sealing levels. You can select everything in a one-stop shop from this page. The next spot we will go to is the designating of exhibits. For some cases, this won't apply, but if it does apply, it is uploading a PDF of a supplemental document that you will be able to fill out, save, and upload. There's a link to a template for this right from that hyperlink that Amy was able to click on. And then when we open up that page, it is going to be a fillable form that you can determine what the exhibit number was, what the description is, the date of that filing, and if you go up to that exhibit list information, if you have more than one exhibit list, you can just copy and paste that section and then put a second one down there. So for example, if you're designating pretrial, that could be that the sub for the exhibit list is sub 20 and you have that date, but if you have a trial exhibit date, that could be sub 21 and it will be on the same filing date likely, and then go ahead and distinguish those lists so that you're grouping the exhibits together so it's clear which ones you would like us to gather and transmit up to the Court of Appeals. Saving this document as a PDF will then allow you to select the choose file, and then you are able to upload that exhibit form to this case. It'll just give a second while it scans, and then it'll alert when it's done. And then, as you can see, 100% on that bar. And then you are able to move on to information about who is designating, and then coming up after that is contact info. So from here, you will select what party you are from, and it's just a normal checkbox like you would with former parts of this form. And then we will have you move on to contact information. Typically, that's going to be first, last name, email, and telephone number. Perfect. Thank you kindly. And then we will move on to the summary and invoice page. So this is going to give you a high-level snapshot of what you have submitted. So again, first back to the designation of your clerk's papers. That is the document that when you move past this point will be created, generated, and filed into the case along with the index. And this is where you see, again, high-level information like your King County Superior Court case number. You'll see your appellate number. It'll distinguish, do you have exhibits, yes or no? For example, if she had not uploaded an exhibit supplement, it would say no. And for some folks, it could be a fun reminder to say, all right, I meant to go do that, and then go back and be able to supplement that piece. It then gives you the total amount of documents you've designated as well as the total page number. That page number is how the actual cost of it is calculated. So you can see 71 pages. That amounts to $35.50. And it'll give you that one last sort of stop to say, okay, do I have everything I need? Is this what it's expected to look like? And then we will proceed to the payment portion. This is probably the most exciting for many folks in this webinar, the ability to pay online. I know for folks that might do a heavy amount of appellate work back and forth, U.S. mail checks and coming in is often not always the most exciting choice. So being able to pay online is something that a lot of folks are looking forward to. It really just cuts down on that back and forth time, and you have the ability to, order copies of your designation sooner, being able to see what types of filing date turnarounds are going to be a lot faster. And from this page, you can see that we are going through that one last verification of what the balance is, and then proceed with payment. You can use your drawdown, you can use credit card, and then it will hum for a moment while it thinks about it, just a little bit. And again, that ability to get out of reliance on mail is something that we are very excited about. Thank you, Amy. So from this page, it will shortly take us to the confirmation, or maybe not. Um, yes, we are doing it live. So
I can show an example. How about
that
that?
would be lovely. Thank you so
Okay.
much. And then again, for those familiar and for those who are not, messages are part of our portal process as well. So you'll be able to see when something is submitted after payment, for example. You'll receive a confirmation email that the online clerk's paper set is received. It'll give you that information on a summary link that you can click to then navigate to another snapshot of what that looks like. It'll let you know what the sub filing is. You can go to your general sort of documents fees, and you can see that middle section there where it says the sub 37, clerk's papers fees, and then it'll give you that status in there as well. Generally speaking, you'll be able to then take a peek at the images that were filed, and as you can see, it just has the designation of clerk's papers, the index, and then because restricted documents were selected as well, you also have that restricted index as well. So truly snapshot of everything in one spot. It is something that once you have submitted it, it will then be received by the clerk's office, and then it gets processed and then transmitted to the appellate court that was selected. It is a very solid way to get out of back and forth, but also the index is also immediately available to send to other parties. It's the same exact process that we reviewed for things like supplemental designations or amended designations. If you determine that there's something else that you would like the Court of Appeals to review, you can always go back and just go through this process. It'll give it that next volume, that next page number, so all of the pieces of it are sequential and able to just be added in as a new request. Again, immediate opportunities to order the copies. The document itself, that designation is something that is generated by your selections and by the information that's input, and it's all going to be based on that available appeal number that was initially filed with the notice to the appellate court. I realize that was a lot of information, and I see the chat is very much getting used as well. The resources that we'll have available include both an FAQ section and a quick start guide. So for folks that want to see a step-by-step, you can go to your messages and then scroll down to the bottom where it says if you have questions, go ahead and click on that hyperlink. Thank you, Amy, again. And this section is a wealth of information. So if you're wondering about e-filing, e-working copies, the clerk's papers one is the newest addition to our FAQs. It will open up into a PDF that just sort of to a web page that will let you go through, see what kind of questions get asked, have a couple of sequential items just to let you know what phase things are in, and then what happens in certain scenarios. So that information can be very, very helpful if you're just starting out with clerk's papers, or if you just want to confirm things that are sort of standardized and have stayed the same way. The clerk alert, again, goes through and navigates when the process changes, high-level pieces of it that are going into effect. And again, we are currently live with this. We kicked it off over the Juneteenth weekend, so you were able to see and start using that as soon as you would like to. Our step-by-step is available in many languages, and then you're able to go through and just sort of really slow down, see the snap or the screenshots. It is a step-by-step for how to go through the process that we just did a demonstration of, starting with, again, your KC script portal, I'm sorry, your portal account, going through each element step by step. Highly recommend having this side by side if you're doing your first request, just to make sure that you get comfortable with the sequence, get comfortable with what types of things you should expect to see. That payment piece of it will be the part that will be up to you and your your available resources, so that you have that screen will also provide you with the payment info for that confirmation. Uh, Outside of our FAQ and outside of our quick start guide, we're available for questions on any parts of these processes. We're, again, deeply, deeply excited to bring this new tool and roll it out. Any questions, you can keep going in the chat. And then if there's anything that anybody would like us to repeat a demonstration of, feel free to let us know. I see that Kimberly is very active in the chat. Thank you very much. But we can go through and see if there's any of them that
Gina,
are
I think we can highlight a few of them.
sure.
There was a question that asked about the copies being available on the same day you designate them. And so we can see here, my filing finally went through, so I was able to pay for it. But we can see here, after making the payment, the designation is available, as well as the indexes. And this one did break out into the public, the sealed, and the restricted access. And these document images are available immediately by going through your e-filing submission summary. You're able to look at those documents, download a copy. Those will be available for 14 days from the day that you do file them. And then the clerk's paper set, as Gina had mentioned, is available for ordering immediately. You will use the records request option while that is loading. Oh, there it goes. So we can see here that the index was automatically created and generated. But to order the copy of the clerk's paper set, you would go to the records request form and search for that case number. And then you would be able to order a copy of the clerk's paper set from the case. If it was not showing, I need more documents. Oh, there we go. So we can see the clerk's paper set is available for purchase. And you would just need to go through the sealed process if you were trying to get a copy of the sealed clerk's paper set that was filed. And then I think the other question to highlight was, are you able to e-serve the documents? And the answer is yes. So the designation and the index will be available for you to e-serve from the e-filing submission summary. So how I got there was from my account, e-filing submissions on the same form, just like if you were filing a document into a case, you get a list of your history of documents here, and you can perform any of these actions on the right-hand side. So I could serve the document, the designation, as well as, oh, I don't know why it's not working, but you should be able to serve the documents from here, and both of the designation and index. I'm not sure what's going on with my test environment, so I do apologize. Let's see here. Gina, there is a question on here. Does it automatically transmit the designation to the corresponding COA, or do we need to file in COA the document in the trial court docket?
So we will only be handling on our side the element of actually transmitting the clerk's paper set and indices up to the Court of Appeals. So from anything that is a requirement for parties to file for the rules and I'm sorry, for the rules of appellate procedure, you will want to make sure that all of those normal steps are filed. This is just going to be the transmittal of the clerk's paper set and the exhibits that are designated to that. So anything outside of that scope, you will want to follow normal protocol for any deadlines, any sort of additional steps that you need to take around and after. This is for the creation of the sets and the transmittal up to the COA for those documents designated. I have one other item I saw in the chat as well, where there was a question on for exhibits, is that just for trial exhibits and the exhibits not otherwise showing up on the document list? So for exhibits that are available to designate to the Court of Appeals or to the Supreme Court, it has to be something that the clerk's office has custody of after the court has ruled on it. So for example, if you have a trial or a pretrial or even a post-trial, we would only retain the exhibits that had been ruled on for the court in non-criminal cases. Criminal cases, we have all of them available and handy. But if, for example, you brought an exhibit, but it was never ruled on and it was returned to you, then it wouldn't be available to designate. So if it has an X on your exhibit list under the returned column, that means you're not able to designate it because it's not in our custody. Whereas if it has no X under the return column, then that's something that's available. So really critical to look through the exhibit list and designate things that were ruled on or have a judicial officer finding on during the actual hearing or trial, depending on what it is. Things like protection orders or things like just your regular civil family law trials typically are just going to have standard exhibit list, but again, it has to be something the clerk has custody of before we transfer it to the Court of Appeals. So very, very important that if it is marked returned, then it is not available to designate as part of that exhibit attachment.
And Gina, can you follow up since we're talking about exhibits? We had a question about how does the system know how much it charges if there is an exhibit? How much to charge you for those if they aren't filed documents?
Got it. So for anything that is an exhibit, there's two paths for how the payment works in this piece. So if it is documents and exhibits, it is just the cost of the documents. Whereas if you are not filing any documents and you're filing exhibits only, that is a flat fee for exhibits only of $25. So it is going to depend on if you have one, the other, or both. So two of them are just calculated by the document cost, whether it's documents or documents and exhibits. That is just purely volume based on the page number. And then if it's a standalone, you're just designating exhibits and no documents, then it's $25. And our system calculates that because it sees that no documents were selected. So if you want to just do exhibits only, you just don't fill anything out on the documents page and go straight to that upload of the exhibit supplement. And I see the next question on there is, when selecting documents for the clerk's papers, is it possible to preview the documents selected prior to the submission to ascertain if you have chosen the correct documents due to generic declaration, for example? So for that piece of it, if you have got your document list within our widget, we don't have the available to look at the image while you're selecting it from that main list. I would say as a general rule, we recommend making sure that you are able to verify, look at any documents you would like ahead of time, but within the widget, there isn't a way to open up the document at the same time as that checkbox.
And there was an earlier question about, is this feature mandatory or optional? Gina.
Awesome. Yeah, so this is a completely optional service. So you have the ability to file a clerk's papers designation that was drafted by you, just as you could have this whole time. It's not going to be something that's mandatory. So what we refer to as sort of a hard copy filing is something that you absolutely have the option to do. It'll just follow the normal protocols. So everything is quite similar to how it is right now. It's just that if you would like to do self-service in 2, 3s, and 4s, you have this option. Sure,
And I
let go
think
of that.
that's all the questions, Gina. I skimmed through all of them, so
I think you are right. Yeah. All right, we'll hang around absolutely if there's any more questions in the chat or if there's anything that you might have wanted to see a little bit more on, but I appreciate everybody's time. Again, this is something that rolled out on Monday. Very, very excited for just how many efficiencies this is going to be able to bring in, especially for a group that does heavy appellate practice. But really good questions. Very much appreciate those. Great. Excited to see the enthusiasm in the chat. We're excited for you to try it out as well.
thank you, everybody.
And I see one that's saying not finding the quick start guide. Could you send? And I see the thumbs up heading from Kimberly. So that should be heading your way, Maggie. Thanks, everyone. Perfect. Suzanne, you should be seeing a couple chats up from you for, okay, perfect. Awesome. Yeah, for those that might just be listening without the chat open, the quick start guide has been linked into the chat. If you would like to click on that hyperlink, it's currently there in English, but the other languages are available in that same area. And I see now that that quick start guide has been pinned for easy access. Thank you very much, Ivy.
Welcome.